Some people ask me, Andrea, as the engineer whisperer, what do you do? Well, let me tell you, with the story, of course. When I was growing up, in the beginning of the summer, my parents would drop me off at my dad's mom's house. She lived by herself in a village 12 kilometers from the town where I lived. I have many memories hitchhiking with my dad at the outskirts of the town, catching a ride with strangers, and then walking from the outskirts of the village to my grandmother's house. We would always meet new friends that I wouldn't have had the chance to meet among the apartment buildings, like a cat, a dog, a duck, a goose, a horse, a cow, or a donkey. The village every summer was full of new experiences for me. As a child who was growing up in an apartment building in a busy town, these summers felt like freedom and exploration. When I was at my grandma's house, I became one of the villagers. Grandma would take me to visit her friends and our extended family, and everyone we would meet on the street she would introduce me to and made sure that they knew I belonged to her as her granddaughter, and I belonged to the villagers as one of them. I've never realized until this moment what she really did. Grandma didn't say I was visiting her from the town. She always said I was there, with her. Thus, I have never felt like I was a visitor, and nobody would treat me like a visitor either. During my stay there, at Grandma's house, she would ask me to go get things for her on my own. I remember going to get bread one day, and everyone I had met greeted me with a smile, asked me how my grandma was, inquired about my trip, and wished me to be safe. As part of the villagers, I was cared for and protected by everyone. But I was also a blessed one. My grandma was a modest woman who lived in a house that didn't have a water nor a sewer system. It had electricity because I remember she had a small refrigerator that was half of the size of the one we had in our apartment, and she had a TV in one of the bedrooms that worked for a while and then it would quit. Grandma lived alone because my grandpa, who I remember vaguely, died when I was really young. He was her second husband, and she never remarried after that. Her first husband had never returned from the war. Grandma had only 4 years of school because of the war, but she was the wisest person I've ever known. Yet growing up, I didn't know that. What I did know as a child was that everyone loved my grandma. People would stop by and come in for a few minutes to say hello and check on her well-being. On the street, people would greet her with a smile, sometimes with a hug, and the conversations would always be kind, loving, and friendly. I felt her warmth, her optimism, and her faith in every interaction. She didn't have wealth to give, but she had an infinite wealth of kindness towards everyone. She lived in the present and was always present with people. I felt I felt it as a child just by watching her interactions. I have no doubt those who received her presence felt it too. One day, this presence of hers gave me the biggest gift I could have ever received from her. I was probably around 5 or 6 years old. I wasn't in school yet, I remember. We were sitting on the couch that opened up and at night became my bed. We must have been daydreaming together, or she was just finishing up telling me a story. I loved her stories. She didn't have toys for me to play with, but I didn't want them anyway. She would teach me about gardening, about plants, trees, flowers, and bees. She would teach me about how to feed the chickens, how to play with the dog, and so much more. But her stories were the best time of the day. I would ask her all sorts of questions, and she would answer all of them. about her life, her childhood, and her experiences about the war. My curiosity was thriving when I was with her. She always listened to me and gave me her attention. That day, she turned towards me and said, "I have a question for you." I was eager to hear that. "What do you think people will do after I die?" she asked. I remember I didn't think twice about my answer. My face turned happy, my voice was cheerful, and I joyfully started telling her about how we would have a big party at her house. Probably the whole village would be there, and we would have good food and music to celebrate her and her life. Grandma's face was puzzled for a minute. I could see she was surprised by my answer. It wasn't the normal or the obvious answer. Although I'm not sure what she wanted to hear, but I remember her eyebrows lifting a little bit, like she was ready to correct me. But she didn't. She lowered her eyebrows, and a smile started to be visible on her face. Her eyes were shining, almost laughing, and she said, "Tell me more." And I did. I went on imagining all the details my young child's mind was able to imagine. I felt so much joy as I was telling her about her afterlife celebration party that I can still feel it every time I think about that moment. I was young. I had no concept of death or dying or mourning. I only knew about what was in my heart. And what was in my heart was what I have experienced while being with her: joy, happiness, and celebration of life. Why wouldn't I continue to live life like that? My grandma couldn't have wanted for me to be sad, depressed, or isolated. She would have wanted me to live a full life, filled with what I wanted to fill it with: my wants, my wishes, and my dreams. For many years, I didn't even realize how significant this moment, this memory was for me. I think my discovery came after someone asked me, "Andrea, where do you gain your power of choosing to be yourself and believing in yourself, no matter the situation and the circumstances you have lived through?" Through my inner work, I uncovered my grandma's gift, like a hidden diamond in my dresser's drawer that has been covered up with other painful memories from my past, and one I didn't dare to touch because of the fear of reliving those pains again, yet deep down in my heart knowing that one day the time would come to uncover it all. What Grandma gave me that day was the gift of seeing me for who I truly was. She didn't judge me for being different. She didn't scold me for being wrong. She didn't want to change me. She accepted me for who I was. She allowed me to be in that space of my very essence and invite my curiosity and creativity to imagine something that has not been created yet. She understood how important it was to hold that space for someone, indifferent from their age, and listen. She knew when you listen like that, you can hear someone else's heart sing. And that is a very special moment, because when you are hearing someone else's heart sing, you don't listen with your ears, you listen with your heart. This is how one heart can open another heart. My grandma's biggest gift to me was giving me this experience of my heart singing. It sounds like such a small thing. Do you really need someone else's help to hear your heart sing? I've been thinking about this question for a while, and what I have found in my heart, in my mind, and in my body The body is considered the part of our being that remembers most of our lived experiences through our lives. Is that yes, we do. We do need someone else's help. How else would we even recognize this song unless we hear the same song through someone else's heart? I was blessed with having this experience at a young age because it created a memory I was able to go back to when I forgot about my heart and how it felt to hear my heart sing. Many people, similar to me, have hidden such a memory in their hearts somewhere deep down and have forgotten about their gifts. Or maybe some haven't yet experienced such a moment in their lives. I have chosen to believe that most people have had such an experience and they have just forgotten about it. I've been witnessing it over and over in my work, in powerful conversations with my clients, friends, and strangers, that when I listen to them, like my grandma listened to me, they are able to remember. But not just remember, they are able to hear their hearts sing. My relationship with death has been shaped by my grandma's gift to me. I don't see death as something to be afraid of, although I wouldn't choose to die, neither wish it for someone else. Death is something that's an event that brings forth separation, sadness, and many unanswered questions. What has shifted for me was that a third option showed up. I can hold space for both sadness and mourning, and I can also celebrate the passing person's life. My third option is to be and to do both, to allow myself to remember how our hearts sung and to long for experiencing it again. And what I discovered is that every time I listen to someone, like my grandma listened to me, and our hearts sing, I am reminded by all the moments in my life when I sat with my grandma and felt like the world was just us, there, between us. Yet it was full of infinite possibilities for more joy, kindness, and peace. So, what do I do as the engineer whisperer? As the engineer whisperer, I do what my grandma did for me. I create a space for engineers where they listen using their hearts and are listened to by my heart, where they can be themselves, say what's on their mind and in their heart, and where that is enough. And once they have given themselves permission to be fully themselves, their wants and dreams are also allowed to be said out loud without any judgment. Just like my grandma allowed space for my answer. And once these dreams are out, they are so beautiful, so full of joy, just like my party was. And in this space, dreams feel like reality, and reality fills up with possibilities. Everything is possible when we believe in it. And when engineers believe in themselves and in their dreams, we begin to solve the obstacles that seemed impossible a minute ago together, one obstacle at a time. Engineers realize they are more capable, more confident, and stronger than they have ever thought they could be. And this is how great engineers transform into impactful engineers.